right. What's up, family? Give me 1 second. 1 second. I'll give y'all some time to join in. Let's see. All right. All right. So, those of you who are joining in, just hit 1. Let me know if the audio video quality is on point. Let's see. Let's go. All right. All right. Peace and shalom to y'all joining the chat. Peace and shalom. If you want, y'all can share this link. All right. So everything is good. All right. That's what's up. Now I have some updates I want to share with y'all. And a couple other things. So, tonight I don't really have nothing planned to chat about. But I know I didn't do a live last weekend. So I wanted to do a live tonight. Open up an opportunity for discussion, Q&A. If somebody wants to join the panel and have a discussion, just let me know. I'll put the link in the chat. You know what I'm saying? We can have a discussion. So, it's a late night chat, but some updates I'm going to share with you, all right? First update. So I made some arrangements career-wise so I can have a more consistent Freestyle Friday or Saturday Night Live session, and at a much earlier time, right? Because previously my schedule was really hectic between family, working, and other stuff related to community work and stuff like that. So I'm working on streamlining everything. And like I said, because of some arrangements career-wise, things should be more consistent coming this upcoming weekend. All right. So that way I can get more people in here, because I know a lot of people really like these sessions, and unfortunately sometimes they're really late like this, right? So a lot of people are not up, you know what I'm saying, or wait to actually enjoy it and engage with it when it's live, you know what I'm saying? So going forward, you'll see that it'll be more consistent on Fridays and Saturdays, and at the very least Sundays, and at a much earlier time. Okay, so I made some arrangements career-wise. It took some effort to do so, but I want to be more consistent for y'all. You feel what I'm saying? So want to make sure that I'm taking care of the family out there, all right? And plus, KHM members, they are also pushing for more standardization in regards to timing, right? So I want to be able to accommodate everybody, okay? So that's the first thing I want to say, right? And I know this is probably good news for a lot of people who do enjoy these sessions. So, hopefully that'll work out for you. I want to say all praise and honor to the Most High Yah. And want to give honor also to the ancestors that came before me, paved the way and the path for me to be here today to speak to y'all. Thank the Most High for giving charge to the Melikim to watch over me, as well as those who are in the chat right now that's actually watching. And I want to continue to be as thorough as I can in regards to reconstructing our culture and giving something back to us that doesn't come from the oppressed system. Okay, something that's unique, something that's distinct. And the purpose of reconstructing the reconstructing the culture is to embed it in common communities, right? And to ensure that our communities can agree on various shared customs and things that pertain to protocol, right? And then from there, we can become autonomous and patronize one another, and we can pull the resources within our community and use those resources to sustain ourselves outside of the oppressed system. Now, that's not going to exempt us from living in this society, but we'll navigate like a lot of other ethnic groups do, right? They're self-sustainable, right, within this society. And we also want to encourage people as well, what I'm saying, to actually, if they want to repatriate, what steps to take in order to do so, and to bring any IP knowledge that you've garnered here and be able to spread it wherever you decide to repatriate to. All right. So I just wanted to give that preface. Also, I want to let you know that this weekend coming up, there's an event out here in Atlanta, and it's going to be a panel discussion of leaders and elders, and they're going to be discussing this 400-year prophecy, this 1619 and 2019 400-year prophecy. I was invited out to the event, so I may or may not sit on the panel. I'm not sure yet, but definitely, I really want to really want to get to the bottom of that. Right? Definitely want to get to the bottom of that, and contribute to the dialogue, right? To ensure that we're on the same page as much as possible, right? So that's out here in Atlanta. So those of you who are interested in the event, I'm gonna go ahead and share the link in the chat. Let me go ahead and grab the link. I'll share in the chat if y'all in the area, you're looking to come to Atlanta, whatnot, you know what I'm saying? I'm gonna go ahead and hook y'all up, all right? So just give me a second, hold on. All right. Okay. All right. So let me find it. There we go. All right. Share the link with y'all. All right, there's the link right there. You can click on that. That's the Facebook events. And y'all can see the details on that panel discussion as it pertains to the 400-year prophecy, 1619 to 2019, what next, right? So I'm definitely going to be there. So give a shout out to KB Dead in the building, Don Terry, Pianki Pata Matulu in the building. Peace to you. Matt No, Mo Gooden, Roderick Crawford, Carlos Clark, Jennifer M. Anybody else want a shout out that's in the building, just hit one, let me know so I can give you a shout out. I want to make sure I acknowledge everybody that participates in the chat, everybody that supports KHM, and everybody that provides feedback to make what we do here great, right? Because me and KHM is nothing without you guys, right? So I appreciate that. So Roderick, you said that you're not in. Shout out to Yehuda Israel. Roderick, you said you don't have Facebook. Yeah, I realize that a lot of people who watch this channel don't have Facebook. I'm very active on Facebook. I put a lot of recent posts up as well to garner a lot of critical thinking and discussion amongst our community, so we can fine tune some things. Shout out to Ishor Ent. Don Terry, I think I shouted you out, Don, but I'll give you another shout out. You know what I'm saying? Also, if y'all want family shout outs, right? Because I get a lot of requests for family shout outs. Let me know. Just put it in the chat and I'll give a family member a shout out if they're watching this along with you. You know what I'm saying? So just let me know. Also, if you have a business, and that's another thing we want to continue to promote in the community, when the website goes back up, we're going to have a directory of all Israelite businesses, right, in our community, right? If you want your business in a directory, and or if you want your business featured on KHM, let me know. Email me. I'll give you the email. All right, so that's the email address right there. You can go ahead and send it there, and let me know. Now, Roderick, what do you ask me to put on IG? Let me know what you asked me to put on IG. Shout out to Jimmy Marshall in the building. All right, let me know what you want me to put in IG. But anyway, that's the link right there for those of you. Matt, I'm not doing that right now. Like, I'm focused on something right now. You know what I'm saying? If you want to do that, there's the email address. Email me. All right. Just wanted to let y'all know about that event. It's a really good event. It's a unity event where various groups and congregations and campuses coming together to have this important discussion as it pertains to our community. I'm gonna try to live stream and record it. You know what I'm saying? So that way y'all can see it. I may or may not post it, on this channel. I don't know. It may just be Facebook. I'm not sure yet. You know what I'm saying? Just so y'all know, like I said, I'm not sure I'm gonna be on a panel on that, but I'll definitely be vocal, right? Even if I'm in the audience when they have Q&A, I'm definitely be vocal, right? So that's gonna be a great discussion. Shout out to Kelly Rivers in the building. Appreciate that. Oh, you want it streamed on Instagram? Let me know. If you want to stream it on Instagram, let me know. I don't know if I could do both. I probably can. I got a tablet, you know what I'm saying? I got my laptop and my phone, so I may be able to stream it in both places. We'll see. Okay, Matt, maybe you can. I mean, that's up for debate, but I'm not here to discuss that right now. All right. So I'm gonna focus on what I'm doing here. Please stay engaged to the discussion. All right. All of that, you can email me and we can have a conversation about that. All right. All right. So next transitioning. So the KHM mixtape, all right, is fire. It's fire. Man, I got like almost 50 submissions, right? Almost 50 tracks people sent to me, and I went through it and with some KHM admins, and I handpicked most of them, and they picked a few others, and we narrowed it down to 18 tracks now, but I got 2 more late submissions, so it might be 20 tracks. Trying to keep it at 16, but it's just so much. So it may be 20 tracks. Right now we have 18 tracks, right? So it may be 20 tracks. And I'm telling you, man, it's fire, right? For those of you who are not on Facebook or Instagram or whatever the case may be, or Twitter, you probably have not seen the cover for the mixtape. So let me go ahead and show that to y'all. I wanted to show it to y'all last time, but for whatever reason I couldn't find it, which is weird. But let me go ahead and share this with y'all so you can take a look at it. All right, so all right, this is the mixtape cover. Now, if anybody's interested, this is it right here, right? So if anybody's interested in actually getting a physical copy, let me know. Otherwise, when you donate, we'll send you the link and you can stream it on your phone. You can stream it on your computer, your tablet, your smart TV, streaming device, whatever the case may be. And then volume 2, we're probably gonna do around the end of springtime, right? And then I want to work on an album. I don't know how far I may get, but I want to work on an album for y'all. You know what I'm saying? So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for that. I'm gonna do one album. It's not gonna have a lot of songs. It's probably gonna have maybe 12 tracks on it, right? 10 to 12 tracks. But I'm gonna do an album, right? I'm gonna put a lot of good content in it. It's gonna be real too. I'm gonna keep it 100. And at the same time, ensure that it's for all ages. So this mixtape right here, you can play it, you know, and don't have to worry about any vulgar language, any cursing or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? Wanted to keep it PG because I wanted it to be for all audiences. You know what I'm saying? So you can play it around your children, play it around, your grandparents or whatever the case may be. And don't have to worry about anything explicit coming out. You know what I mean? But this right here is the cover to the album. Those who get the physical copies, there's going to be a backside to it that has the artist name, the song name, etc. All right. But like I said, we got 18 tracks already. May add 2 more. I reached out to one more artist that I personally wanted on the track. So I mean on the album. So on the mixtape. So we'll see if he's able to submit it in time. But 20 tracks I think is a healthy dose. And I'm promise you guys will enjoy it, right? So that's that. Right. All right. So shalom to Adaya Yisrael in the building. Shalom to Black Av in the building. Put the address. Oh, you talking about the address for the event on IG, Roderick? Let me know if that's what you're talking about. Shout out to Sean Fleming in the building. Yehuda Israel, you want me to answer a question? Shout out to Just Looking, who just joined in. You said you're blocked. I mean, you're not blocked. I mean, obviously, I can see you chatting in the chat. So you're not blocked. And you're asking me a question. I just want to know, when was JC Yahushua anointed with oil to be king of Israel? So this is really interesting. You asked me that question. You actually use JC and Yahushua. I don't use neither one of those. So apparently you may have my position misconstrued. But definitely, if you want to have a live discussion, let me know. I'll put the link in the chat, and me and you can have a one-on-one session for a little bit while the live is going on. So I'm not going to type nothing in the chat. If you want to talk about it, let me know. I'll put the link in the chat and we can have a discussion. Shout out to Tim Lindley in the building. All right. So if you want to chat, let me know. Shout out to my brother Sam Bone in the building. Shalom to you as well. But definitely let me know. J Lockhart 25 was good. So anyway, let's move forward. So the next update that I wanted to share with y'all is the event that I told you about that was supposed to be going down in Houston. The host decided to postpone it to June, July to give them more time to situate everything, to get the RSVP together. I received emails from y'all who are interested in the event. I got your emails for the live streams, and everybody that sent the email, secured you a slot for the live stream. All right, because again, we have limited slots for the live stream and limited slots for the event coming in person, right? So everybody that emailed me about a slot for the live stream, I got you. We'll give you further instructions on what to do when we get closer to the event in order to actually see it, right? See it streamed, all right? So anybody else who's interested in that, let me know. Email me. I'll put the email in the chat again. All right. It's right there in the chat. Shout out to Ben BZ. Peace. Black Av, I see your question. Shout out to Mr. E's Remedies. Sean Fleming put the link in the chat so people can patronize your business. Let me know. Shout out to Angelicia Benton. Shalom to you as well. Mahami Eureka in the building. Peace. Shalom. So we're gonna get all the other stuff out the way, and we're gonna talk about some information in a second, right? So just give me 1 second. 1 second. All right. Let me clear this here. All right. Also, don't forget Kingdom Harbinger Ministries. We have a lot of services. The ones that I personally contribute to KHM provide. We had debt elimination services, naturopathic health consultation services, computer repair services. If you're interested in any of those services, shoot an email. All right. And we'll take care of you. Okay. All right. If anybody else has sent the email and you didn't get a response back yet, we're going through all the emails. I get hundreds of emails, right? So It takes time for us to go through it. You know, I go through the majority of it. Sometimes I may have some assistance, but it takes some time to go through a lot of those emails. So don't think that we didn't receive it or we are not responding to you or ignoring you purposely. We will get to it in the order in which we received it. All right. So we're still going through it. And like I said, once I stabilize, you know, my schedule from making these changes for career advancement, then it'll be easier for me to give you guys better response and to give you a better opportunity earlier in the day to actually respond live. You feel what I'm saying? So shout out to y'all who've been patient with this channel, that's been working with us for years, or even those who just joined in. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate all y'all. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to those who support the ministry as well, whether that's by sharing the material, donating, sending prayers up, whatever. You know what I'm saying? I get messages all the time for y'all, support all the time for y'all, and we appreciate it. All right. Every little thing that you give, every little thing that you do, we appreciate it. The most important thing that we really want to get from y'all is if you're inspired by any of the material that's on this channel and that inspiration leads you to do something profound in your community, we want you to share those testimonials with us. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what it's all about. If this information does not, you know, translate into you fixing a societal ill within a community that you live in, then we're doing a disservice to you. You know what I'm saying? But if it's empowering you to empower your family, empower your community, and causes you to be active in sharing information and or putting your hand to the plow and putting work in your community, we want to hear those testimonials. You know what I'm saying? That's the most important thing. You feel what I'm saying? So that's what's up. All right. So, all right. Let me go ahead and so Yehuda, where you at? If you want to jump in on the panel and have a discussion, let me know. Right? Let me know so I can get that to you. Shout out to my brother Quincy Claiborne in the building. He was at congregation early and we kicked it. Shout out to Yala Med 77. If anybody else want to shout out, hit 1. So I make sure I don't forget y'all. I want to make sure I cover everybody that's in the chat and that's showing their support. All right. All right. So I think that's it for updates that I can think of. You know, maybe I could play a few songs off the mixtape. I don't know. Y'all want me to play some songs off the mixtape hit 2? I spent a few minutes and do that. Give you a quick sample of what's on the mixtape. But hit 2 if you want to hear some of the songs that's on the mixtape. Let me know. Hit 2. Hit 2. We got some stuff on there, man. Some stuff on there. So hit 2 if you want to hear that. If not, then I'll proceed with the rest of the session. All right. Shout out to Truly Chosen 619. Go Getter 901. Shout out to you as well. All right, so y'all want to hear tracks off the mixtape. All right, this is a preview. All right, you're gonna get it first. Okay, some of these songs, most of these songs, you ain't hearing nowhere else. I'm 100% sure of that. You know what I'm saying? I want to bring exposure to these artists as well, so I can support their endeavors and what they're doing to contribute to the community. And I want to take their music and bring it at large. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna try to get this mixtape in as many places as we can, so that way we can expose the greater community to these artists who put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into their craft. You feel what I'm saying? So I definitely want to ensure that that they're heard, their voice is heard, because the name of the album is The Truth Works, right? So when the mixtape starts off, you're gonna hear intro for me, and then it's gonna transition into the tracks. You feel what I'm saying? So shout out to High Frequency in the building, Sirius B in the building. Appreciate y'all for joining in this early in the morning. All right. For some people, it may say it's late at night. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play a couple of tracks, man. Shout out to the Consequence Netter. Yes, this is live. You said greetings from Nigeria. That's what's up. Nigeria family in the building. And when I go back and I look at when I do the analytics for, you know, the YouTube channel, man, people be tuning in from all over the globe, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't even know how half of them find out about this channel. You know what I'm saying? But I'm grateful that they're tuning in. You know what I'm saying? From Brazil to Nigeria to South Africa. I had some people that was in Beijing, Bangkok, you know what I'm saying, tuning in. I'm like, oh, you know what I'm saying, the UK. You know, I just recently saw some people tuning in from France and Canada. You know what I'm saying? So that's what's up, man. So, hey, Victorious, we're not doing that tonight. All right. So be in your best behavior. You know what I'm saying? Anytime, my brother, Consequence Netter. Anytime. So yeah, Victorious, keep that in check or you're going in timeout. All right. Stay relevant to the discussion, please. All right. So I'm asking you nicely. All right. The Consequence Netter I did, okay, that's what's up. You know what I mean? And if I can do any more for you, let me know. You know what I mean? The email address, let me put it up for you right here. If you need anything, let me know. Oh, before I start, let me show y'all this real quick. This may help some people, right? Let's see. Okay, this might help some people. I had a video I put out about it some time ago. All right, so let me grab this real quick. I want to show y'all this and show y'all the link. Maybe this may help somebody out. Okay. What was the main link that I had for this? Here we go. Here we go. All right, this is what I want to show y'all. All right, so this may help some people out that's out there. Right. So let me show this to y'all real quick. Hold on one second. This can probably help somebody out there. I always like to share little things that can help out y'all in the community. So I shared this before in the past, but I'll share it again. All right. So what you're looking at here is called missingmoney.com. And what this does is that this allows you to search for any kind of unclaimed funds or property that may be in your name or name of a relative or a loved one of yours, right? Or even a friend that you may want to tell about. And what this allows you to do is claim any funds or property that is in your name. And it's various ways that, these monies are allocated, right? So let me, hold on real quick. Hold on. Give me a second. Let me show you. Let me let y'all see this. All right. This right here. All right. So as you can see here, it says 4 tips to find unclaimed funds. Search for unclaimed money and property in a state where you've lived. Check for unclaimed funds from bank failures or unclaimed deposits from credit union closures. Search for unclaimed or undelivered tax refunds or a refund from FHA insured mortgage. Check for unclaimed back wages, pension money, or life insurance funds. All right. So if you go through it, it'll tell you how to find these unclaimed monies. Again, if I scroll to the top, you see the URL that's there at the top, right? So that URL that's there at the top is what you're going to type in to get to this site, or you can go to missingmoney.com. That's that other site right here that I'm showing y'all, missingmoney.com. You type your first name, your last name, and the state of residence, and you'll see how many unclaimed funds will come up. So I'm gonna do John. It's a random name. Morgan. Let me do New York. Right. So you see, it tells you all the John Morgans, right? It tells you the state, where those monies is at, the addresses, who's reporting these unclaimed funds, and the amount. All right. So this is something that you guys may want to check out real quick. You may or may not have something, or a family member or friend may have something. You can tell them about it as well. All right. But remember, anytime you attempt to make a claim, they're going to ask for verification, right? And if you collect somebody else's money, that's a federal fraud, and you can do 7 years plus in prison. All right. So use this responsibly. All right. But hopefully this can help somebody that's out there right now. Again, it's called missingmoney.com. Just type your name in, your city, your state, if you want it to be exact, or just put it in general, and it'll look up all the names that have funds. All right. So definitely check that out. Hopefully that can help somebody out there. All right. So we can transition away from that. So hopefully that'll help y'all out there. All right. Okay. All right. All right, same to you, my brother Yehuda. Do you want to join the chat? I mean, the panel. If you want to join the panel and have a discussion about the question that you're asking, let me know, Yehuda Israel, so that I can add you or send you the link so that you can join in. All right, let me know. All right. All right. So give me a second. Let me transition. Remember the website. Let me put it in there again. All right. Hopefully that can help somebody out there. All right, there we go. All right, so Truly Chosen 619 says, any thoughts on a locust plague in Mecca right now? So I seen that, and I thought that was really interesting. A lot of people are tying that to prophecy. You know what I'm saying? When you go ahead and look at it, I show it to you right here on this website. Let me show you. It's interesting. It's the Times of Israel, right? Let me go ahead and show it to you on this website so you can see what the brother's talking about. Right here, Mecca's Grand Mosque plagued with swarm of locusts. Authorities dispatched cleaning crews to eradicate insects for the safety and comfort of the guests of God's house. A massive swarm of locusts plagued Mecca, Saudi Arabia earlier this week, prompting authorities at Islam's holiest site to launch a cleaning operation to remove them. Videos posted to social media show the insects swarming around cleaners and worshipers in the city's Grand Mosque, where millions of Muslims, pilgrims congregate every year for their Hajj, right? Here's some footage. You can see all of them all over the place. See all those locusts? They're all over the place. All over the place. Right? So specialized teams have been directed to work in the fight to eliminate these insects. We have harnessed all efforts available to speed up the eradication of the insects in the interest of the safety and comfort of guests of God's house. According to CNN, officials identified the locusts as migratory black grasshoppers, right? And said that 22 teams consisting of 138 people were dispatched to deal with the infestation. As you can see, this is them cleaning them up right here. Okay. All right. So my perspective on that, I mean, what's going on now is that the way that the ecology, the environment, the atmosphere, and just the earth in general, right? There's so much damage is being done to this planet, right? That is throwing everything off, right? And people who are akin to prophecy or prophetic utterances as it pertains to the scriptures see swarms as locusts as symbolic of some kind of judgment, right? Or something that's imminent, that's about to come, or something that is happening, right? So me personally, I see it as the degradation of the earth and how the earth itself is coming to a point where it is very difficult for things to be in proper alignment, and nature itself is being affected by that, right? So we see this in these type of incidences that are occurring. Okay. So this just means that, there's going to be some kind of natural disaster that is imminent, that is going to happen whenever you see things like this happen, because animals and insects know things before we do, right? They're more in tune with the planet than we are. You know what I'm saying? The Most High has given the planet under our dominion, but we've corrupted that dominion. You know what I'm saying? And man has done so much crazy stuff with this planet. We're going to see a lot of changes, right? And seeing things like this, these type of incidences, is indicative of what's about to come. You know what I'm saying? What that is, I don't know. My hunch is that it's a natural disaster. But looking at that and being in sync with looking at patterns on how things occur, this is just an example of things that happen. Same thing by looking at whales washing up on the seashore or honeybees disappearing here in the US. All of these are signs of things that are to come, right? So we are to brace ourselves when we see these things. And this is why when we teach, or we teach community, we teach autonomy, right? So it's going to be a time where we're going to have to rely on one another, you know, when judgment starts to befall the rest of the planet. And when I say judgments, the judgments, people can look at it in a humanistic perspective, where the earth itself is going to pretty much, you know, throw up on the inhabitants because of, you know, the sicknesses that we've infected this planet with. And those of you who are in tune with the divine, how the creator is going to render judgment, right? Because man is not doing the due diligence of, you know, being, you know, exercising his dominion over the earth, right? So, you know, you start to see things like this occur, which lets you know that something imminent is about to happen. So that's my stance on that. That's my position as it pertains to those black grasshoppers that have descended upon Mecca and the holy city in Mecca. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, just stay tuned, man, and be prepared. You know, be prepared. I'm a feature sometime this year, a emergency preparedness session. It's going to be a session where I'm going to go over emergency preparedness with y'all. I'm going to give y'all some good guides, some tips, and let you know, as far as like taking the high ground, you know, how to identify edible plants in your environment, how to study the behavior of certain animals when certain things are happening, right? So if a flood is imminent, certain land animals are going to take high ground. So these are things that you can see in your environment that will tick you off on things that are about to come. And if you look in Hollywood, they're making tons of movies. They've been doing this for years, tons of movies of all of these end time scenarios. You feel what I'm saying? So you want to make sure that you and your family is prepared for that. And we want to make sure that we produce an episode where we can give you as much information as possible so you can implement it. And that way, when things start to happen, you know exactly what to do. Always make sure you have a compass, right? A multi-purpose knife, a compass. You want to have a bug out bag with all of these necessary items in it in the event that an emergency has occurred. And we're going to show you a bug out bag, right? I'm going to show you my bug out bag, right? I got to purchase another one because the other one I have is small. I want to increase the items in it. So when I get it, I'll be able to show you all the major essentials, what to bring with you if you have to leave your house, what to leave behind. How to create certain points of contact where you either want to be in a situation where people are going to be, or you want to be able to avoid people in different anti-scenarios, right? There may be a pandemic as it pertains to, and some kind of viral infection, right? That's airborne, right? How do you protect or shield your body in the event that this type of plague is occurring? You know what I'm saying? It could be a situation where the government collapses, you know what I'm saying? Or the economic system collapses. What are you going to do? You know, so all of these different scenarios, you know, is probable, right? Which means more than likely. And we have to be prepared for these things when they do happen. You understand what I'm saying? So we want to do our best to equip y'all so that way y'all can stay focused on that. So the main thing is, if people ask me all the time, what do you think about end time prophecy and stuff like that? I said, listen, I'm too busy doing work, right? So when the prophecies do occur, we're going to transition right into it. Right? Because we were commissioned to do the work. And in the process of doing the work, you are preparing yourself, your community, and those you reach out to for the things that are to come. Right? And this is why when I was going over the metallurgical model, right? The pre-exilic Israelite metallurgical model that I established. And one of the major key things on it is it end times ready, right? Is the model that you use to chart time so you can keep the Hagim, is it end time ready? You know what I'm saying? Can you use it if you're in a wilderness state, right? And that's extremely important, because even though you may have to be in a wilderness situation, you want to still be able to be in tune with nature, so that way you can still, you know, understand what time it is, you know what I'm saying, according to nature, and be able to commence your Hagim, all right? So Sirius B, you said, can you drop the video about implementing autonomy in our community? Sirius B, it's on my channel, right? I got maybe about 4 videos on that. There's a playlist, right, on autonomy. Check out the autonomy playlist. Those videos is in there, all right? So check that out. Let me know what's up. All right. Well, victorious, yes. It seems that that's exactly what's going on in Israel right now. It should not really phase any of us here, you know what I'm saying? Because we know what to look for and what not to look for. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So that's extremely important. Shout out to Sarah in the building. I think that's every Vince D. Shout out to Vince D. Now we had a very interesting discussion. Well, we always have interesting discussion when I'm at the congregation I fellowship with. And in one of my live streams, I had talked about Leviticus chapter 11, or Vayikra chapter 11. And one of the interesting things about Vayikra chapter 11, as it pertains to the dietary law or clean and unclean, a very interesting thing is understanding the psychology behind establishing clean and unclean. So what I had mentioned to you guys before, a lot of the animals that's labeled as unclean, those animals are not really the particular. It's a objectival noun, right? It's a noun. It's really an adjective that's been turned into a noun. And what it is that it's telling you certain features, behaviors, or attributes that these animals have. That in Israel, they were able to identify certain birds in the environment, because they can't list all the birds. You know how many birds there are that fly in and out of Israel? All of them are not listed as clean and unclean. What they're trying to do is set a template so that you know how to discern which animals are clean and which animals are not clean, right? I want to bring something up since we're having this discussion. I want to bring something that's very interesting in regards to clean and unclean animals, right? I was waiting to present this in a lecture that I'm going to do sometime in the future. But needless to say, you can perform your own halakha when it comes to clean and unclean simply by looking at certain attributes and behaviors of these birds. So if you look at the noun and go back to the root adjective, then you have the attribute there that in your environment, no matter where you're at, you could be in Nigeria, right? You could be in Georgia, right? You can be in Brazil, right? You can be in South Africa, right? Or the UK. Your objective is to look at the animals that's in your environment and be able to discern who's clean and unclean. So what I like to teach is the logical, psychological perspective behind why animals was identified as clean and unclean, right? So a lot of the unclean animals that you see listed, whether they're birds or other animals, etc., the reason why they're labeled as unclean is so that way the people can avoid them, because they have a very prominent ecological contribution, right? They have an ecological contribution that if you diminish them, then you're going to have a situation where the garbage in the environment, carcasses in the environment, garbage in the environment, certain biological functions that the environment is to produce, right? Certain crops, all of these things are interfered with if you overconsume or start to consume what is labeled as unclean, right? For example, one of the attributes for one of the birds is labeled as unclean is a bird that has maternal instincts, that has a strong maternal bond with its chicks, right? So if you see that a bird is after the eggs hatch and the chicks get to a stage where even they can still fly, that mother is still with those chicks for an extensive period of time, you leave that bird alone. Because if you start to kill off the parents, now the birds themselves are going to be unable to survive. And now you throw the entire ecological balance off. So the objective that the Most High gave the Israelites is that when I give you this eretz, when I give you the haaretz, the land, you need to take care of it, right? And if you don't take care of the land by leaving certain unclean animals alone, and when you do deal with the animals that are clean, there are certain protocols and interfacing with them. And if there's certain crops that has grown, if you overconsume out the land, guess what? The land cannot produce for you, and you must be kicked out the land. That same principle is what we need to apply today, right? And when I say halakha, halak is the root word meaning to walk, or a way to walk, a way to live, where you use the scriptures as a template in the areas of the scriptures that is not specific to your scenario because you're in a different environment and you're in captivity, etc. What you have to do is you have to be able to take a consensus of the scriptures as it pertains to that subject matter, and you have to deviate among other people in your community and find a way, how do we best implement this template so that way we can yield the results that our forefathers yielded when they implemented these things, right? So this is extremely important in order to keep the ecological balance in place. And when we start to do things that are, you know, unfavorable to the environment, that pollute the environment, then you have certain things such as these locusts that are descending upon Mecca. You know what I'm saying? You have those type of incidents. And we want to do is we want to continue to be the diligent caretakers of the land that the Most High has given us to be. You understand what I'm saying? So we have to keep that in mind and ensure that the way that we live is in sync with the dominion that the Most High has given us over the land, so that when we treat it right, it'll treat you right in return. And a lot of people, you know, are not as in sync with nature as they should be. And that's something that we need to do, because when you observe nature, Psalm Tehillim 19 says it very specifically. You're looking at the handiwork of the Creator, right? Whether it's looking at the celestial realm or the terrestrial realm, right? It gives us a way to be in awe of the creation, right? And in doing so, we become more diligent in respecting these things, right? And we continue to know our perspective as it pertains to the grand scheme of things, all right? So going transition into the next thing that I wanted to say is that I use Eldad Hadani a lot, right? So I use him a lot, right? When you study Eldad Hadani, you'll see that he was a historical character, so nobody disproves his historicity. The thing that they try to discern or ascertain the authenticity of is the account that he has given based on his travels, right? So there's a book, right? Let me show you. Let me show you this. I want to show you this real quick. This is really, really interesting, right? Let me show you this real quick. Let me bring it up. And this goes into how to discern if an animal is clean or unclean, right? One of the ways to discern. Now, Eldad Hadani, if those of you don't know why I see him as being important, is because he's identified certain northern tribes that were in the interior of Africa. And when he was traveling as a Danite, and he encountered other Israelites from Asher, from Gad, from Zebulun, etc. What occurred was that in living amongst them and witnessing how they lived, he discovered that they didn't have a lot of what we call Second Temple Judaism practices, right? And one of the things that was distinct was how they performed ritualistic slaughter of animals, okay, and how they cut the animals, which is very, very particular. So a lot of people will come out and say, well, the accounts of Eldad Hadani needs to be scrutinized so that we can discern what was authentic that he said and what was not authentic. But you got to remember, he was also a linguist, right? So a lot of the medieval sages, who are rabbinic sages, they draw from a lot of his linguistic work, right? And his accounts to the places that he has been based on the details that he gives, right? So some people will say, well, the river Sambatyon is not real, and because they said that the river itself, it does peculiar things on the Sabbath, right? And the stones that are by the river do peculiar things on the Sabbath as far as like stopping the flow and allowing the flow to run, etc., like that. I mean, these are things that he said in his account. So I'm not concerned with the miracle aspects of things he says in account. I'm concerned with the cultural things that he says in account. When he says that they have a version of the Tanakh, but it does not have Esther or Lamentations in it, which means that the text that they have was missing certain books. And if they got anything that was, from like Ezra, Nehemiah, etc., they had any of those books, it was something that they acquired much later on, because remember, there was a lot of trade routes in Africa because of the Arabs that came into Africa after the 7th century AD, right? So I'm more concerned with the cultural elements and what this book actually does. And it's really one of the only books that I've ever seen on his work, because I've surveyed everything. I know almost everything there is to know about him. How the Prester John legend was inspired based on Eldad Hadani, which was a Christian response to his Jewish claim of lost tribes being in Africa and being in other areas, right? He didn't just say Africa. I'm only concerned with the ones that were in Africa, but he talks about them being in Iran, them being in Mesopotamia, etc. My expertise and my concern is mainly what is going on with these lost tribes in Africa, so-called lost, because they're not lost, right? These northern tribes that are in Africa. So one of the things that he had mentioned, and they didn't really have a lot of details on, and so somebody decided they wanted to collate all of the details and actually make sense out of it, was the ritualistic slaughter of animals. What I'm working on now is a comparison between the ritualistic slaughter that was laid out by Eldad Khadani and how it's performed by certain West African tribes that claim Israelite lineage. And what I've discovered is that the method in which Eldad said these animals were sacrificed is eerily similar to how these tribes, and one of the major tribes that I'm examining is the Igbo tribe, how they, and the Ifik and Ibibio peoples, how they slaughtered their animals ritualistically. And the animals that they killed were mostly, as far as fowls are concerned, were clean birds. They only used clean birds for their sacrifices, right? And there's an article explaining, because a lot of times certain practices are explained in mythos, and a mythos is created, or a mythos comes from a legend, and that dictates the practice. This is how you can determine if a practice is indigenous to a people, if it's foreign. If the people don't have a mythos for that practice, then more than likely it is a foreign practice that was culturally diffused into their culture, and over a period of time with enculturation, that practice was then taught to upcoming generations, and they assimilated into it and assumed it as their own. So it's really important to look at what is the mythos for certain practices. And this is not just West Africa. This is just any civilization, any group of people, right? Ethnic group of people, is what is the mythos behind the practice, right? So a lot of these things are there in order for us to determine, is this an indigenous practice or is this practice coming from somewhere else, right? So when it comes to the fowl, they sacrifice a lot of fowl, right? Including chickens. Remember, chickens are not indigenous to Africa, right? Chickens were brought to Africa, and now there's a whole lot of chickens in Africa, right? But chickens are mostly indigenous to India and Southwest China, etc., right? And then they've made their way over, crossing over the Levant region, going into Africa, and they made their way into Africa, right? But an actual mythos was created as to why the Igbo people sacrifice these fowls, right? And even the method in which they sacrifice the fowls. So the fowls, Fowls, all right? Not fowl, Fouls, Fowls, right? And chickens is considered a clean bird. So there's some people that say, oh no, chickens are unclean. And I'm like, okay, when you say chickens are unclean, this is based on what, right? Is this based on the Torah, Vayikra chapter 11? If it's based on Vayikra chapter 11, show me where Vayikra chapter 11 talks about chickens. It's not there. One thing that Eldad Khadani says, that when he was amongst these northern tribes, they had maintained a way in which they determined certain live animals that were clean and unclean, and the ritual on how they slaughtered these animals. So chicken was one of these animals that was deemed to be clean. And it's similar to the same reason why doves and pigeons are deemed to be clean as well. One of those things, and doves and pigeons can fly. Chickens are flightless birds, right? Even though, chickens can get off the ground, but they really can't fly. Turkeys is something different, right? But the thing that he said in his work was they had two crops. Now, they don't have two crops. Animals, birds don't have two crops. They have a crop and a gizzard, right? So animals, when they're pecking and they're eating, right, they don't have teeth, right? So what happens is when they gulp down the food, or any kind of sedimentary or anything else that comes along with the food, it goes into the crop. The crop is a pouch, a food pouch that holds the food for X amount of time and then passes that food to the gizzard. So what the gizzard does is that the gizzard grinds the food by using grit, and the grit is gathered via the pecking of the pebbles, the rocks, the sand, whatever the case may be. And the grit is used by the gizzard to grind down the food so it's malleable enough or palatable enough to pass through the rest of the digestive tract. So before they would kill these animals, they would open them up and they would check for certain organs. Matter of fact, kidney divination was performed as well, right? If you know about liver and kidney divination, right, where they will open up an animal and then they would use the kidney or the liver to divine, right? This was something that was well known amongst Canaanite and Mesopotamian cultures, right? And I'll probably do a lesson on that sometime in the future. That's a very interesting lesson, right? But needless to say, the way that the fowls were killed and selected as being clean animals. He said, this is what these northern tribes, this is what they were doing. So let me show you this account. So this author, in the process of determining, hold on, let me grab it. In the process of determining whether his ritual was authentic or not, this author used the ritual to determine that a lot of the accounts that some people overlooked that Eldad Hadani had taught or was sharing was, whether conjecture or not, actually confirmed that it was actually a cultural practice because of the way it was performed and the way how it was also carried out by some Karaite traditions, right? So let me see if I can grab that for y'all real quick. I'm going to show y'all this slide real quick. Let me bring it up. Give me a second. Hold on. All right. Oh, I didn't forget about the music. I still got y'all the music, so I didn't forget about it. All right. Now, again, the scriptures give you the template as it pertains to, clean and unclean. That's just a template, right? You can choose, whether or not you want to eat meat or not eat meat. I mean, that's clearly up to you, right? But the reason why certain animals should be off limits to us is so that way we don't encourage the slaughtering of these animals and the diminishing of the quality of the ecology that we live in, right? So this is extremely important. Shout out to Out the Blue in the building. So when you say Aristase, you're talking about the letter of Aristase as it pertains to the Septuagint. Let me know. Let me know what you want to know about that. I'll see if I can help you out the blue. Piece of reliable Andrew in the building. So you're saying you're wondering if divination is forbidden. If divination is performed by means of deities that are not Israelites. So if you claim to be Israel, then there are certain confines, cultural confines that you have put yourself in, right? Certain borders that are aligned that you are to follow. So there are forms of divination within Israelite culture, right? Prayer is a form of divination. Casting lots is a form of divination. These are things that the laymen did. They prayed, right? And the prayer is just placing an appeal before a court, a heavenly court, in order for them to dispatch a response that's in alignment with the requirements that the court has of that individual, right? And then you have your casting lots, and there's certain situations in which you cast lots. I have a whole video on that. So these are forms of divination that was practiced by the Israelite community, and these are things that we can also engage in today. Most of y'all have practiced divination. If y'all praying, you're practicing divination. You understand what I'm saying? Now, me, I pray and I do casting of lots. I pray more than I do casting of lots, but they're two different things. And you got to understand, before you put an appeal, you got to make sure that that appeal is in alignment with the requirements. Otherwise, your appeal is going to be rejected. There's a certain way you got to place an appeal before that divine council or that heavenly court. And if you ever had a situation where your prayers were not answered, it's because the appeal that you're putting forth is not meeting all the qualification and guidelines that's necessary before to submitting an appeal. It's just the same thing in legalese terms, an appeal. Before you go to a legal court and wherever it is that you live, there are certain requirements that have to be done before your appeal can even be accepted, before it's even heard, right? And before it's even adjudicated over. You understand what I'm saying? So if you don't know how to properly pray, then I may have to do a lesson on that to assist some people out there so y'all can get these results. You feel what I'm saying? Because I know a lot of people say, oh, I don't hear from Yah and Yah don't talk to me. And I'm like, well, what kind of appeals are you putting before him, right? Are they meeting all the qualifications? Because if they're not meeting the qualifications, then when he responds, it's not always audible. He responds given circumstances and situations, right? And sometimes he responds through certain leaders or people that he chooses. And we see that in a situation with Moses, right? Moshe and the Bene Israel, the children of Israel, where we see that Moses was the intermediary between the Most High and the children of Israel. And the children of Israel, a lot of them were not personally had that conversation with Yah, but they saw Yah work. That's why the scripture says that Moshe knew the ways of Yah and the children of Israel only knew the acts. So sometimes people only commune with Yah based on the acts that he performs. But those acts that he performs, they have an intended goal, right? And a lot of times some of us are not in tune with that. So sometimes you got to be linked up with those who have experience in that realm, right? And that they can put a great appeal before Yah and make sure it meets all the qualifications. Because if he's not responding, it could either be because there's a delay, because if you get an immediate response, you may be immature and or premature premature and immature as it pertains to carrying out the edict that he provides to you. Or he may respond and you're not seeing how the response happens. It's not always an audible response. Sometimes it could be a situation. Sometimes it could be an opportunity. A lot of times an appeal is to open up an opportunity so you can perform something. And that performance is something that is going to allow the court to get credence for the work that is being done, right? So if you don't understand the proper protocol to put an appeal before the divine council, then your appeal is going to be rejected, ignored. You understand what I'm saying? And one of the things that we see that the psalmist says in Tehillim 66, he says that if I regard iniquity in my leb, in my heart, then I know I will not be heard. Right? So there has to be a cleansing done with you, a retrospective, looking in the past, introspective, looking within yourself, and you have to see any iniquity that's in you that needs to be confessed before Yah, so it can be cleansed. So now you can then put that appeal before him, right? That's extremely important. And when you read Psalm chapter 51, you know, that gives you a lot of the protocol, right? Extremely important, but a lot of people miss these things, right? So their prayers are not heard, right? And a lot of times they think they have to hear an audible voice in order to be in tune with the deity. Let me explain this to y'all, right? I don't know how many of y'all have studied West African cultures and West African spiritual systems, because this is something that I study a lot, right? In all those West African spiritual systems, the deity doesn't always talk to the person, but the circumstances change and that individual know that the deity has responded to the appeal that they put forth before the priest, right? In Hebrew, we said the Kohanim. But in like other cultures, you have a Babalau, and a Babalau is the priest who performs divination on behalf of the deity and on behalf of the inquiry of the person inquiring of it. And a lot of times he'll give the person a reading, and the reading just means an opportunity will or will not open up for you. And when it does, these are the things to look out for. So you have to be very conscientious with circumstances and scenarios happening in your life to know whether or not your appeal was responded to, right? And this is the same thing. Like if you put certain appeals before the court, you may not always hear from the judge directly, right? You may hear from his administrators, right? You may hear in the form of whatever court order is placed out for something to be done. So you may never even speak to the judge when you put an appeal, when you file certain paperwork. You may never speak to the judge. But does that mean that the judge himself is not responding? No, that doesn't mean he's not responding. So this is important to understand and internalize, so that way you can be in tune with getting or yielding results from the practices that you're performing. Because if you're not getting results, something's wrong. You got to go back to the drawing board. You know what I'm saying? And I want to make sure that I assist and help to walk people through this, so that way they can be in alignment with the protocol, so they can yield the results that their ancestors were yielding. Then they can yield it today. All right. All right. All right, so let's get back to Eldad Hadani. Let me show you this slide real quick. All right, let me bring it up. I want y'all to see this. This is extremely important, right? All right. So I want to show y'all two things, right? First, I want to show y'all this slide real quick. All right. So if you look at this slide, it says ancient pre-exilic Israel. Vayikra, Leviticus 14:4. Then the priest shall give orders to take 2 live clean birds and cedar wood and a scarlet string and hyssop for the one who is to be cleansed. The priest shall also give orders to slay the one bird in an earthenware vessel over running water. So as you can see, there's some particulars that need to be done as it pertains to sacrificing a bird that is clean. Okay, so what I'm showing you here, let me move this out the way. What I'm showing you here is how do you identify what birds are clean, what birds are unclean. All right, so we're going to jump down here, right here where it says that there are 2 crops, the upper and lower, in certain birds. Such is the view not only of the author whom Daniel L. Kumsi here opposes, but also of Saadia, who renders Leviticus 1:16 with the words that we have here in Hebrew, page 144. And matter of fact, let's get that. Leviticus chapter 1, verse 16. Hold on, let me bring that up for y'all too. Give me 1 second. Leviticus chapter 1, verse 16. All right. Now, Leviticus chapter 1:16, it says in English, and then we're going to go into the Hebrew. It says, he shall also take away its crop and its feathers and cast it beside the altar eastward to the place of the ashes. He shall tear it open by its wings without dividing the bird and burn it on the altar atop the burning wood. It is a burnt offering, an offering made by fire, a pleasing aroma to Yah. That's important, right? So you understand, what is being done when a bird is being offered. It says here in verse 15, actually, it says, then the priest shall bring it to the altar, twist off its head and burn it on the altar. Its blood should be drained out on the side of the altar. So there's different ways that they sacrifice the birds depending upon what kind of offering was being given, right? Which is extremely, extremely important, right? So in our Hebrew here, we have Weheser et mor ato beno sata wehislik ota esel hamiz bea kedema el mekom had dasin, which has to do with the ashes. So what they're comparing in Eldad Hadani's account of sacrifice is what is being formed in Leviticus chapter 1 as the template. But the important thing that I want you to see here, hold on, let me bring it back up. Let me bring it back up. Hopefully y'all able to see that. I don't know if the writing is too small or whatever. I can't tell because I can't see what y'all see. I can only see what I can see, right? But it says being the upper and the lower crop of or the gizzard, right? So this has to do with actually examining the internal organs of the bird, and the internal organs will let you know if it's clean or unclean. It says here may refer to the second crop as well as the gizzard. The authority whom Daniel al-Kumsi here controverts is most likely Eldad, whose view might have found acceptance by others. But Eldad clearly states that the sign of purity for birds consists in that they have 2 crops, not as page 98 arbitrarily interprets the text to mean 1 crop in a gizzard, and that the contents of the one, i.e. the upper crop, flow into the other, i.e. the lower crop. Among frugivorous birds, only in pigeons is the second enlargement of the esophagus sufficiently developed to be properly called a second crop. There can therefore be no doubt that Eldad believes that pigeons are the only birds or fowl that may be eating, probably because they were the only fowl offerings brought into the temple. Now, this is something that is posited as far as an animal that's clean or unclean. Now, as far as it being clean to eat and clean to sacrifice are 2 different things. But I'm bringing here where the one of the authors that was interpreting Eldad was saying that he believed that only pigeons had the second crop. But when you go on and read it further, there was other clean characteristics of other birds, such as chickens, that also have what's called 2 crops. Technically, one is a pseudo crop because it's really the gizzard, and one is the crop. So I put this image here of the chicken up so you can see what the crop looks like once the chicken takes in the food and the grit It comes in here into the crop and it sits there, and then it gets pushed from here all the way into the gizzard, where the gizzard then grinds up the food and passes on to the rest of the digestive tract, right? So it says here, to whom Kare Aaron ben Yosef traces the distinguishing characteristics of clean birds, right, which are taken from pigeons, right? And this is why we see that also in the scriptures as well. The later Karaite are much more liberal and permit the use of for food of all the wild and domestic fowls not mentioned in the Bible as unclean, so long as it is possible to identify them on the basis of tradition. Attacks on the validity of the characteristic accepted by the Talmudists or rabbinic Jews for distinguishing clean and unclean fowl are Karaitic. And Karaitic are traditions that are outside the rabbinic traditions, right? So what they're saying here is that they're trying to posit what was the understanding behind Eldad's account of animals that were clean and unclean to eat and to sacrifice. So birds, such as chickens and pigeons, were deemed clean to sacrifice. And what if you go back to the Karaitic tradition that they say that Eldad had held, it also deemed other wild and domestic fowls, such as chickens, right, to be clean birds that can be both eaten, consumed, and or sacrificed. Now, it also depends on what's in your environment. Some environments don't have chickens. Some environments just have pigeons, right? And therefore, you determine that the pigeons are clean to eat because of the crop and the gizzard. Like I said, almost all birds have gizzards, but all birds don't have crops. Okay, that's extremely important. All right. So to transition, when we go into the Igbo peoples, here's an article that I got called Igbo's Fowls, Wellerism, and the Consensus of Other Animals, the Issue of Literature Begetting Culture. Okay. Wellerism, the figurative expression that quotes the character in the course of communicating by the proverb, is part of the Igbo people's linguistic ornaments. In their Wellerisms, there are various characters like the old woman, the swallow, the lizard, the fowl, etc. Igbo fowl's Wellerism is the one which a goat used is given a reason for the permission of his absence at an important meeting of animals. The Wellerism was that Igbo fowl pledged that whatever consensus other animals reached at the meeting, he was absent, he would accept. So it was by the Wellerism that he was selected the worst victim of ritual sacrifices in Igbo custom. It is this expression of literature that resulted to the culture of using fowl for various ritual sacrifices. This work, which its data was sourced from the library interviews, showed that literature is part of culture. Same thing with the Israelite culture, right? The work is interested in the culture implication only and does not have interest in profound biology or animal husbandry. It is discovered that one of the culture implications is sacrificing the fowl at ritual ceremonies, right? And here's an example. This individual is not Igbo, right? But here's an example of this practice here in West Africa, right? Where the fowl themselves are used as animals for sacrifice. And one of the explanations for that goes in its Wellerism based on the literature. And we see also from the text itself that we have that there are certain guidelines for animals that are clean and unclean, and that dictates the culture from the literature that we possess as Israelites. And when you look at how they slaughter these particular fowl, it is very similar to the sacrifice method that Eldad Hadani actually put forth. And I could probably pull it up and show it to you if y'all interested in knowing what that is. But let's go ahead and read some of this that's here. All right. It says, Igbo people that no animal suitable enough to change fowl. Today, various kinds of fowl are used in carrying out ritual sacrifices. The determinants of the kinds of fowl include age, sex, species, and color. So it's more specific. We don't have color, you know, in the scriptures, right? Now, we may have age, sex, and species in scripture, but you don't have color. So this is a little bit more specific, right? It says there are various reasons for utilizing Igbo fowl at different ceremonies. It is commonly used that the Amansia people say, Okuko Odino Ma Ihe Ekwi Omune, right? When fowl is not available, no ritual sacrifice can be performed. Some sacrifices are not eaten. Same thing that we saw with Eldad has said, that certain fowls are not eaten after their sacrifice. The materials could be used in cleansing someone off of some abominations and thrown away. When we look at some of the animals that are sacrificed, it is also as a means of atonement. A lot of sacrifices in what fowl is used as the victim are performed by blessings, breaking and eating kola nuts, immolating fowl, and using his chicken and preparing a meal eaten by all attendants, and drinking palm wine before the shrines of respective deity. Well, wine is also drank as well in the Israelite culture, right? Ugwu and Ugwu Eye 2004 stated that this kind of sacrifice is meal and drink sacrifice. The utilization of fowl carry out sacrifice includes the following, and it goes into a special breed of fowl. It has feathers scattered. The scattering of its feathers signifies disorderliness. The charm made with it causes quarrel among the victims. It can make a family fight always and get itself destabilized. One can now see that a lot of ego sacrifice are performed with fowl. Even when other animals are used, they are added to show the contentment of the worshiper and his wealth or dissatisfaction or satisfaction he derived from the favor that respective deity he or she is worshiping gave him or her. And when you worship Yod-Heh Wafe, he is giving you certain instructions on clean and unclean birds and how to sacrifice certain ones, how to examine them as far as their crops are concerned. Certain sacrifices you twist off the head, certain sacrifices you have to cut the throat, etc. But the traditions is what dictates this, because we don't have all the details or particulars in the text, right? This is what your halakha is. The conclusion is that the Igbo fowl records the highest frequency among all animals of the land in terms of utilizing them and carrying out ritual sacrifices is not in doubt. Fowl falls victim of the ritual sacrifices from the earliest stage of life, the egg through a stage of chicken, and to adult stage of the cock or the hen. So cock is male chicken, hen is a female chicken, right? If this were eating food, other animals would not allow the fowl to take a lion's share. Well, the Igbo fowl has nothing to add because he signed his death warrant unknowingly when he so carelessly promised to abide by the consensus of other animals in a meeting he was unavoidably absent. So you also learn a lesson that a lot of times if you are supposed to show up in a situation that requires you to be on counsel for a decision to be made, that your absence is consent for whatever they agree with, right? So if that includes you being kicked out or something happening to you, some penalty befalling you because you're not there to speak your piece, your absence is consent, okay? His acceptance is in his wellerism. Fowl says that whatever all animals agreed upon, he would accept, all right? So let's get out of there. So, hold on, let me get back. I can't see what y'all saying. All right. All right. All right. So Calvin is asking me about the Hebrews to Negro. Also, shout out to brother Ron Dalton and sister Only Love Austin. They have an event that's coming up that I will be plastering on social media on Monday, which is next weekend, if I'm not mistaken. The Hebrew to Negroes movie. Let me put that up for y'all. Those of y'all interested in seeing what the brother is talking about, let me grab that for y'all real quick. All right, here it is. I'm gonna post that in the chat. This is the video the brother's talking about. You can rent it. It's $10.99. There's a wealth of information in it. So it's like 3 hours long. Now, I haven't seen all of it, right? The first one I did. The second one, I haven't seen all of it. So I'm not going to prematurely give any criticism on it because I haven't seen all of it. After I watch all of it, I will do. Shout out to D Red in the building, Eduardo Jimenez in the building, Shannon here in the building. Shalom to you, sis. Daniela Ali Yael in the building. Peace and shalom. Let me see. Who else is in? Sterling Sawyers, Zarak Yasharala. And I think that's everybody. Khan Yiso B. My Caesar, Savage Einstein, Melanin Rich Nagast, MPC, number 8841, James Wood, Lacey X, Sam Johnson. Appreciate all y'all for joining in. Slow Flow the God in the building. Yes, I got you, Rock. I got you. I was trying to send it out tonight, but I'm doing this as well. But go and check out the link if y'all are interested in Hebrews to Negroes, the new series, the new docu movie that's out. What I've seen so far was good, but I didn't see all of it. So I'm not going to prematurely give a critique if I have not seen all of the film. So that's my position here. After I watch it, I will speak briefly on it in one of my live streams, but definitely go and patronize the brother. And that's the link if you guys want to watch it. All right. No problem, Calvin. I got you. All right. All right. So what I was showing in regards to the clean and unclean birds is that you have to study certain things. And the reason why I studied Eldad Hadani as it pertains to the clean and unclean birds is because he said that being that he was amongst the northern tribes in the interior of Africa, he saw some of the rituals they performed, and he was aware of a lot of the traditions that they had in which animals were clean and unclean, and how they perform their ritualistic killing of these animals. Okay, so if we're gonna really look in West Africa to see what traits that some of these West Africans have as it pertains to the which animals that they sacrifice and how they sacrifice them, we can align that with the account that Eldad Hadani gives, and that gives you another eerily stark comparison between Israelite culture and what we see in West Africa, right? And I have a follow-up lecture to the one that I gave in March of last year, which that slide actually was part of that lecture that I added maybe recently, right? And I've added several more slides to that lecture because I want it to be extremely thorough, but I don't want it to be too thoroughly overwhelming, right? But enough major points so I can make a good point, right? I want to leave you with one more point, and then I'll check out a couple more comments and questions y'all saying, right? So this helps me to identify the northern tribes in the interior of Africa and other West African tribes that have similar practices, right? And this helps the argument to show Semitic diffusion amongst those tribes, right? Now, my theory that I told you before, the Hamitic hypothesis and the Oriental hypothesis, my theory, it deals with both of those things because neither one of those things apply to my theory. Even though part of the Oriental hypothesis can be applied to my theory based on the migration patterns and the Semitic infusion, the entire hypothesis itself falls short, right? It has flaws in it. When a lot of us try to present our argument for Israelite lineage and migration into West Africa. So I've created a model, and I mentioned this in a previous video, that deals with the Hamitic hypothesis and the Oriental hypothesis. And if you don't deal with these hypotheses head on, then that means that whatever model that you're using or thesis that you're using to present as it pertains to Israelite migration and northern tribe migration into West Africa, then you could be challenged and refuted. You have to address the Semitic hypothesis and the Oriental hypothesis head on. And my theory, it addresses both of these things, right? So what I want to say in particular, leading into the point I want to make, is that there's a lot of people that speak about DNA, right? Israelite DNA. And there's no sequenced genome for Israelite DNA. There's none. We don't have any of that. And this is extremely, extremely interesting. I want to show something, but I'm gonna wait. I'm not gonna do it just yet. I'm gonna wait till I do the presentation, and then show you guys the academic article that I'm creating from the presentation that I'm gonna submit to the ISSAJ, which is the International Society for the Study of African Jewry, right? And I'm part of that organization, right? Or that conference meeting organization, right? You can look it up, ISSAJ, right? And I'm presenting an article in order to validate Semitic infusion in these West African tribes that claim a oral tradition of having Israelite lineage. Now, the oral tradition is not 100% exact, but anthropologists know that oral traditions may morph over time, and that sometimes they may be exaggerated, sometimes may have other details in it that, chooses to emphasize the preeminence of certain tribes, but there's always some truth amidst those oral traditions. And what I do is that I look at the litany of oral traditions, and I extract those that can be verified or corroborated outside of the actual oral tradition itself. So some of it can be embellishments, etc. So the peoples in West Africa that claim Israelite lineage, and a lot of that is in some of their oral traditions that some people say, well, it was a result of colonization or decolonization. I address that as well with my model, right? But what I'm saying is that a lot of things that they say have some weight, and then some of the oral tradition is just like fanciful, like extremely fanciful, right? So that type of stuff is the bones that you cast aside, but there's still meat in the essence of it if you can properly align that with the data, the external data that can corroborate part of that oral tradition that can be validated, right? So I'll get into, like I said, I'll get into that at a future time, etc. Because what I'm trying to do is present the best model that I can, that if we are presenting Israelite lineage, is the most safe and secure way to present it academically, right? Because one thing that I realized coming into the Israelite community is that we don't really practice a lot of apologetics, right? So there's a lot of claims and argumentation against our community that we simply have not addressed or dealt with head on. And I've taken upon myself to do these. Now, the apologetics aspect of KHM is an extension of the other three tenets, right? And those three tenets being restorative culture or reconstructing culture, establishing communities and implementing autonomy. So the apologetics aspect is there to help solidify the other three tenets. So that's why I perform apologetics, because I seen that it was a service that was missing from our community, and it was solely needed because we were making a lot of exaggerated claims, fanciful claims, and claims that cannot be substantiated, right? And so I tried to go through, the corpus of claims that we make and the arguments against it, and try to say, okay, what is the moderate middle ground to explain this, right? To best make logical sense out of it. And this is why I created that model as it pertains to Israelite migration and lineage in West Africa. Now, none of this, no part of this model undermines West African tribal culture and history and practices, etc. What it shows is the Semitic infusion with the indigenous people there, and how you can section out the Semitic infusion parts and the indigenous parts, and be able to explain through acculturation, cultural diffusion, enculturation, how you end up with certain traits that we see now that was observed historically, and that now is being contested and debated and argued in academia today, right? So the depth in which I've gone through the litany of this information. And if you don't study West Africa, then, I mean, you're not going to understand what it is that I'm talking about, because you got to know certain arguments against. Like, for example, the origin of the Igbo, you have what's called the Niger-Benue confluence theory. And that theory is posited so it can go against the Israelite migration theory, right? So when you understand that, they use archaeological and linguistic data in order to make a case to say where the Igbo people originated from, and that they were part of the Bantu expansion, right? And that their language actually derives from a Proto-Kwa. So the Kwa is the languages that are spoken in the Bight area of West Africa, right? The coastal regions of West Africa. And what we see with other tribes that's in Nigeria, some tribes that's in Ghana, some tribes that's in Benin, Cote Verde, etc., right? So you'll see the Kwa languages is under the Niger-Congo language phylum, right? And the Kwa languages, they say that the Igbo speak a Kwa language that is indigenously Kwa. But you do see certain Igbo words that share cognates with what we call Hebrew or Ibri, right? Or Ibri. And how do you address that? How do you answer that? How do you respond to that once you look at it, right? So the majority of when we look at the lexical entries of the Igbo language, the majority of it is indigenously Igbo, but there's a portion of it that shares cognates with Semitic languages. And it's like, how do you explain that? So there's different ways that you can go through that to explain that, right? So I want to share that with y'all. But in regards to the DNA, because no Israelites. Now, when you get to the realm of bioarchaeology is the study of animal and human skeletal remains to determine age, sex, health, and sometimes extraction of what's called the aDNA, which is ancient DNA, by means of pulling it out of the petrous area of the temporal bone in the skull, right? And this is how they are able to extract ancient DNA. Now, ancient DNA is not the most reliable source of DNA because of the amount of time in which you're extracting it as opposed to somebody that's alive today. But you can still use it as a basis of looking at the continuity of ancestral lineage between peoples in ancient times and people that exist today, all right? I don't know if my chat froze. I'm not sure. Hit 1 if the chat is still active. I can't tell if the chat is still active. Hit 1 if it's still active. But I'm going to refresh. Maybe it's me. I don't know. Yeah, it just froze on me real quick. All right, hit 1 if it's still active, right? All right, thank you. Appreciate the feedback, family. All right. Are you following what I'm saying? You know, if you're following some of the things I'm saying, let me know. Hit 2 if you're following what I'm saying. Hit 2 if you're following what I'm saying. So 1 means the chat is still active. That's good. Hit 2 if you're following what I'm saying, right? If it makes some kind of sense, if it's something that you can equip yourselves with as it pertains to defending your worldview as being an Israelite, let me know, because we need more of us to integrate these type of studies when we're presenting our argument to those who have competing or opposing views to us being Israelites, right? All right, cool. I want to make sure you're following. All right, and make sure I'm not losing anybody. So because we have not sequenced any aDNA from any Israelite skeletal remains, the verdict is still out. The jury's still out. Whether or not you can discredit any Israelite lineage claims, we cannot definitively discredit it because we don't have anything to measure it against. So when you see these DNA tests with the J1, J2 markers, and they're looking at the Cohenine model haplogroup, and that's supposed to identify people that have Jewish ancestry, what are they measuring that against? Now, there's a study that sampled the aDNA from 5 Canaanites from the region of Lebanon, right? And what they were trying to do, and again, DNA samples, aDNA samples from the Levantine region is extremely rare. But in this particular article that, again, I probably present when I do the presentation, again, with more data, what they did was they sequenced aDNA from 5 different Canaanite individuals from the region of Lebanon. And what they did was they got about 99 living individuals. And what they wanted to do is see if there's a continuity and ancestry, right, between the aDNA from the ancient skeletal remains of those Canaanites and those of the people that are living in that region. So aside from the DNA, we don't see the phenotypes of these individuals. We don't see the cultural practices of these individuals. So we're just strictly getting the DNA. And again, like I said, this is the realm of bioarchaeology, right? So what they determined is that those 99 Lebanese, which is a sample size, so I don't know, the sample that they got, how they got these people, and the DNA that they sequenced from these people as compared to the other people in the region of Lebanon. This is why when I look at these reports, I always try to inquire further as who is the sample group that you're using, right? And even the finds or the skeletal remains that was excavated that they're using to test it against, I question where were they found? I know the strata in which they were found, right? But I want to know what specific areas were they found at, right? But what they were able to determine, at least from this study, is number one, the study tells you that it's very difficult to do these type of studies in the Levantine region, right? So the Canaanites that they grasp are the regions that we would have known as Phoenicia, right, or Tyre in that area in the Lebanon region, right? But it's not talking about anybody in the southern Levant region, right, or near the Central Hill countryside during the late Bronze Age, Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2 periods where we see Israelite culture thriving. And we see Israelite culture thrive more in the Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2, up to Iron Age 2B, right? Even maybe C in the further south of the Levant. But we don't have any Canaanite remains in that area. But what they determined from these samples of these 5 Canaanites, They had 3 females and 2 males. They were able to do a Y DNA test on the males and a mitochondrial DNA test on the males. For the females, just the mitochondrial DNA, and the Y chromosomal DNA that they were able to get. The haplogroups they was to get was a J1 and J2 marker, right? Which goes to show that some of these so-called Jews that get their DNA tested and have J1 and J2 markers on their paternal side, they could be linked to just Canaanites. That doesn't mean they're Israelites. That just means they're Canaanites. I have articles where people in academia have put requests for bioarchaeologists to sequence the genome of known Israelite skeletal remains, and it has been refused. It has been ignored. It's not being done. Why are these archaeologists who are collecting these skeletal remains in the Levant region, the area we know as Palestine or Israel, whatever the case may be, how come they're not sequencing the genome of these skeletal remains of known Israelite sites, at known Israelite sites? Why are they not doing this? Why are they not publicly publishing what the sequenced genome is of the aDNA of these skeletal remains of these Israelites? Now, I have my theories on that. One of them would be, if they did publish it and it's not the people that's there today, it's going to disenfranchise those people, and those people will no longer have a stake and claim of the land. And the entire history that's written about these people who claim to be Jews has to be reevaluated. Now, you know how many people you're going to oust if this has been publicly produced and it finds out that they're not those people. And let's say, for example, and I'm still speaking hypothetically, right? Speculating now, that those people happen to be us. That's interesting. But did you know in the 1930s, there was an excavation at Lachish, and these excavations, they exhumed 695 skulls and a second burial of peoples who were sieged by the Assyrians in Lachish. And they have all 695 skulls, and they took these skulls and they did craniometrics on these skulls and compared them with other skulls in the Levant region and in other regions, and they determined that these skulls match the skulls that they find in Lower Egypt. And some of these people who do craniometrics would say that it was people in Upper Egypt. Some say it's Lower Egypt. Some say it's Upper Egypt. It would depends on where they're cross-referencing these skulls with the other skulls. But they determined that at that Lachish site, those skulls that they discovered, which were individuals that they determined that these are more than likely Israelites. We have the Lachish release that showed the Assyrian sieging Lachish and the things that they were doing to the people there. We have the recordation, the account from the Assyrians on what happened there as well. And you know, a lot of Israelites use these reliefs to show these people with these knotty beards and these wide noses and these knotty hairs, etc., right? And the women with the head coverings and etc. So you see this relief being used amongst our community. But I'm concerned with the bioarchaeological aspect of it, where if we do have the skulls, remember I told you, it's the petrous area of the temporal bone where they extract the egg DNA. They can easily take that DNA from these skulls that they do have at a known Israelite site where we have external data to corroborate that this is an Israelite burial site, where you can take the DNA and sequence the genome, and be able to determine the Y and the mitochondrial DNA results, and be able to publicly publish it so that we can then take that into consideration and see the ancestral continuity of which peoples today that DNA traces or follows. Why they're not releasing this? Again, I'm going to talk much further on this when I go into this lecture. It's not there. So not only do we have people in academia requesting this aDNA of these Israelites at known sites, Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2 sites that we know is Israelite sites, because there's other ethnic markers that help determine for us that they're Israelites. For example, you have regions in which only clean animals were eaten. So we only see the diet in which people ate these various animals were clean animals, right? We don't see pig bones or nothing else like that. We also have ethnic markers such as pottery. There's a particular Israelite pottery that was in the north, and a particular one that developed later on in the south, right? We have cultic items that they're buried. We have the 4-room house and how it's structured. And again, this helps us to determine the egalitarian society in which, everybody in the home had equal rights, right? No one person in the home was more important than the other. The woman was not important to the man was not important to the woman, the children was not important. Everybody was equal in the home, right? We can see the burial customs of the people. We have enough ethnic markers to determine that these are Israelite sites during looking at the strata in which we are extracting it from Iron Age 1, Iron Age 2, and we know these skeletal remains are Israelites, but they're not sequencing their genomes to determine their Y mitochondrial DNA. Why are they not doing this? You're able to do it from these 5 Lebanese Canaanites, but you're not doing it for all these vast other bones you're finding in the Southern Levant. That's interesting. I'm bringing all this data out. It's coming out. I'm bringing the information out when I do this lecture. The one that you saw about the fowl sacrifice that I showed y'all, that is part of that same lecture that I've added more data to, and I'm going to continue to add more data to it until I feel I have enough that suffices for me to then proceed to not only present it as a lecture, but also put it as an academic article and submit it before the ISSAJ, right? And then put it in the academic circles outside of ISSAJ for peer review, right? So I'm trying to make headway, so that way we can respond to a lot of things that's coming at our community. So hopefully the information I shared tonight was valuable to y'all. I'm coming up on 19 minutes and I'm gonna be out, so that way I can stay at 2 hours. Because now what YouTube does is that they let you know how long your session has been streamed, right? And I can see it right now is 101 minutes, right? So I want to stay under 120, which is 2 hours. So that way people will be more encouraged to go back and listen to what was presented in this session, right? So I wanted to really give that to y'all so that way you guys can take these things into account and have extra things that you can equip yourself with and dialogues you have with people that oppose your worldview, all right? So like I said, the appeal thing as far as prayer is extremely important. We'll get into that another time so that way you guys understand it. Remember, meditation works for me. Biblical meditation is musing over your murmurs to melodies. That's how you meditate. That's the biblical way to meditate. And when you muse over your murmurs, you're able to vent out to the Most High and reflect on the things that you're saying that's coming straight from your leb, so that you can make changes and so that Yah can examine you and then he can intervene. And we see this all throughout Tehillim. That's what the book of Tehillim is, the Sefer of Tehillim. And Sefer, again, does not mean book. If you translate it as book, that's called a gloss, a linguistic gloss, because they didn't have books during that time. It was more so denoting a scroll, right? That is more chronologically and culturally contextual as being a scroll as opposed to a book. So if you say it's a book, it's a linguistic gloss, and that's incorrect because they didn't have books during that time. It was mostly a scroll. So sefer to really denote a scroll. So if we look at that text, we see that it's telling you see individuals in it, and it's not just Dawid that writes in it. It's Moshe even has a portion in it. Asaph even has a portion in it, and other individuals as well. But you see that what they're doing in there is musing over their murmurs. This is what's going on. And then when you look at the cantillation marks, they're being done to melodies or tones. And where it's sung, right, or how it's pronounced. Same way that you hear the Quran and how Muslims, speak the Quran. They say it with a melody or with a tone and a frequency where it sounds like they're singing it. The same cantillation marks are there in the text as well, where it has the tonal value of conveying what is being read. And the best way to use these cantillation marks is not with anything else but the Psalms. And when you put it into practice, it tends to, you see a resonance between you and the text. It comes alive when you understand that it's about musing over your murmurs to melodies. This is extremely important if you want to yield results from biblical meditation. All right. So with that being said, I guess y'all could post a couple of other questions if y'all have it. We're coming down to 16 minutes left of the session, and then I'll be done. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this so far. Daniela, please email me, right? Because I'm looking for more organic chemistry students, teachers, etc. So what I'm trying to do now, and I've been in this process for a while, is create a team of people in the Israelite community that are engaged in academia, or and they engage in fields that can bring value to defending our community, right? So whether that's in chemistry, whether that's in anthropology, whether that's in literature, whether that's in linguistics, whatever it is or skill that you may have or field that you're operating in that could bring value to defending our community and helping to substantiate our claim as being who we claim to be, I would love to continue to build out that community, right? So that way we have this team of researchers. So far, I have about 10 people that are in various expertise fields that we can leverage their inputs when we are collaborating and using that collaborative effort to present a better case for who we are as a community. A lot of times we tend to lean on a lot of belief and a lot of faith, and we don't make these things concrete. And when it's not concrete, it may work. The belief, faith, prophecy part may work for people who already been in it for a while, but to the youth that's out there and the secular realm that is heavily entrenched in the intellectualism of society, it's going to be very hard to translate that to them if you have nothing concrete to stand on. And this is what we want to continue to push out and provide to the community to add and contribute value to the claims that we make, right? And be able to reevaluate those claims as well to substantiate and corroborate them outside of just the claim itself, right? There's a particular inductive methodology that you approach these things so that way you can yield an objective result that then you can apply and yield results, right? So definitely email me, sis, if you're interested in being part of that research team that I've been developing for the past 4 years. Is the email. I'll put the email address in here. And anybody else that is interested, let me know. All right, definitely let me know. All right. So thank you, Noriya Yisrael. I had mentioned it earlier. I said that the Hebrew Calendar Conference has been postponed to June, July. They're still working out some more particulars of the event. A lot of things came up, so they were unable to get all the details together. So that way they can have an event as successful as they envision, right? Because they want to ensure that they put their best foot forward in excellence to ensure that this is something that's going to contribute to the unity and understanding of the community. So they've pushed it back to June, July. Just looking. Email me, just looking. Email's right there. Email me. All right. So I can add you officially to the research team. All right. Appreciate that. No, my brother, Consequence Netter. No, you do not have to be in the US, because I know you're in Nigeria. You do not have to be in the US in order to be part of the research team. Just email me. Look at the email above, kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. Let me know what skill sets you have, what field that you operate in, and what value you can contribute to substantiating a lot of things that we discuss on this channel. Remember, even if you're not an Israelite, you can still contribute data that we can look at as Israelites that may be at odds with the things that we say. And it may be some data for us to consider so that way we can reevaluate our position, right? So it helps as well to have a confluence of this type of data so that way we have it at our disposal, right? So I appreciate the Consequence Netta, and definitely you could definitely be a part of it. Definitely email me and just put research team in the subject so that way I know that you're interested and we can bring you on board, all right? So, Daniela, if your degree is in pharmacology, I would love for you to be, and I think I mentioned this to you before, part of Natural Path to Eden, and that's the naturopathic health consultation service that we have. And we use a lot of nutritionist approach and or naturopathic approaches to holistic health. And, you know, I've done a lot of studying with individuals that I know who are pharmacists and look at a lot of the adverse effects that modern medication or prescriptions perform on the body and how they inhibit a lot of metabolic processes and they mask symptoms and they really don't get to the root cause of the issue, right? And being the line of work that I do, I constantly every day do a root cause analysis on problems and issues that come in. And I shared root cause analysis with y'all on the last live stream. We do the same thing as it pertains to health, as it pertains to doctrine, as it pertains to Israelite culture, as it pertains to establishing communities, implementing autonomy. I use the same root cause analysis to continue to work through any problems or issues that come to the table as it pertains to our community, and use that root cause analysis, that once we're able to identify it, we can then prioritize it, classify it, and then once it's classified, divvy it out to the individuals who can then make sense out of it and put out preventive measures as a means of responding to that root cause to ensure that we don't create that fallacy again going forward. You know what I'm saying? So like I said, sometimes this channel appeals to a different audience in the Israelite community, but there's still some starter information on this channel that people who are beginners can get into as well. But this is a particular niche in the community that I try to cater to, or KHM tries to cater to, so we can do our part, right, in building the community, all right? So again, I appreciate that. Like I said, the email is there. Definitely email kingdomharbinger@gmail.com and let me know what kind of contribution you want to make to our community at large. And let me know, some people are okay with their name being plastered on something. Some people want to stay in the background. Also, let me know that as well, because I always like to give credit where credit is due. But if you don't want your name out there, then I won't mention your name, right? But I always let people know that, hey, I got a source gave me this, or a source provided that, right? So I'll make sure that I give due diligence to y'all, right? Calvin, email me so I can look at it, right? Because if it's in this chat, I'm probably not gonna look at it again, but email me so I can take a look at it, right? Appreciate that, sis. Appreciate that. All right. So any other quick questions real quick? Out the blue, you got to email that to me. Email is right above so I can address it. All right. Please email me, and we're going to get to your emails. All right. I'm going to spend some time tomorrow to go through some more emails. All right. So definitely email me. So if there's no other questions or statements or comments or whatever the case may be, I'm going to bow out and let this be under 2 hours, right? Because sometimes people are put off because it's long, and sometimes people enjoy the fact that these discussions is very lengthy, because it's a lot of meat that I try to pack into the things that I convey to y'all to go back and research. I don't tell you to take anything I say for face value. Always go back and double check and fact check and research the things that I reference, the things that I say, and see if I'm accurate. And if you see that there's any discrepancies, let me know. Email me and let me know so I can correct it immediately. All right. So I appreciate that. Black Av, what's your question? Is this something I can address real quick? Let me know, because we got 8 minutes. Let me know. All right. So Calvin Riley, have you looked at the pre-exilic Israelite methodological model that I've put forth as it pertains to a Hebrew calendar? If not, I have a playlist on this channel. You can go back and check out the playlist, and you see I have a playlist that has several videos in which I address that. All right. So definitely let me know. But if you see something and you want to bring it to my attention so I can examine it, like Elia.com, whatever that is, I'll go look into it and see what it is. All right. All right. So another few minutes. Oh, about loving your enemies. Okay. All right. Hold on. All right. So Matthew chapter 5. All right. Verse 44. I think that's what you're referring to, right? All right. And I'm going to end off with playing some of this music because I know I promised it earlier. I didn't forget. So I want to make sure that y'all hear some of this music. All right. So let's get Matthew chapter 5. What I want to also bring out, let me bring this out too. That's not what I'm trying to bring out. Where is it at? Matthew chapter 5. Oh, let's go up. Chapter 5, verse 44. Interesting. So Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. This is interesting. I want to show y'all something real quick. Hold on. Let me get it. Where's it at? Right here. Okay, so it says in the New American Standard Bible, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. Right? That's what it says. Love your enemies, right? So remember what it says. It says here, you have heard that it was said, right? You shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven, for he causes his sun to rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. For if you love those, now mind you, he's doing a midrash here. All right, keep this in mind. For if you love those who love you, what reward do you have? Do not even the tax collectors do the same? If you greet only your brothers, what more are you doing than others? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? Therefore, you are to be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect. Now, there's several things that we definitely want to take into account here, right? If we go to Vayikra chapter 19, verse 18, it says, do not seek revenge or bear grudge against any of your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yah. Extremely, extremely important. Now, why did I bring that out? Because this is what is cross-referenced when it comes to this particular verse. And the interesting thing here is there were people in Israel that saw their brother as their enemy. So they decided that they're going to hate or bear a grudge against their own brother because of an issue that they have with them. The text is referring to those within Israel that is your enemy, because the cross-reference is going back to Vayikra chapter 19, and Vayikra was written for Israelites to Israelites. This is what he was referring to. And his audience that he was speaking to in Matthew chapter 5 were Israelites, because a lot of them had grudges and beefs amongst each other and saw each other as enemies. This is why he's saying love your enemies. All he's doing is going back and give you midrash from Torah. Why? Because you're not supposed to hold a grudge against your brother. Because the scripture says that if you have an issue with your brother and there's no cause for that issue, you are in error. Okay. But let me take this out. Let's take this out. Let's see this real quick. All right. So hold on real quick. I want to bring something else out real quick. Now, somebody's talking about the word love there. Well, the word love there comes from the root word agapao, which is what we know as the agape love, right? So that type of love is the word that's being used there for love, right? But let me hold on. I want to grab something real quick. I want to show you something real quick. Let me see if I can get it real quick. All right, where is this at? Is this the one I was looking at? Hold on, let me get it. Matthew 5:44. Now, when you look at Matthew chapter 5, verse 44 in the Peshitta rendition is extended longer than well, hold on, wait, let me rewind back. I just pulled it up and I just lost the screen. Hold on. Let me close this out. Where is this at? Hold on real quick, family. All right. Sorry about that. I had to step away for a second. Hold on. Now, I want to give you an example of something, right? But I also want to bring this up, verse 44. So Matthew chapter 43 and 44, when you read it in the Peshitta, it gives an interesting twist on what it is we just read, right? So in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44, it says, 43, it says, you have heard that it was said, show kindness to your neighbor and hate your enemy, right? But I say to you, love your enemies and bless the one who curses you, and do what is beautiful to the one who hates you, and pray over those who take you by force and persecute you, right? That's what it says in the Peshitta translation, right? And again, the context is the audience in which he was speaking this to. Let me show you something real quick. I could bring it out here. I watch. Now, let me show you, because I want to show you an example of how this pertains to Israelites, right? So when you go to Lucas chapter 9, and you go to verse, let's see, you go to verse 51, it says, when the days were approaching for his ascension, he was determined to go to Jerusalem, and he sent messengers on ahead of him, and they went and entered the village of the Samaritans to make arrangements for him. But they did not receive him because he was traveling towards Jerusalem. When his disciples, James and John, saw this, they said, Adonai, do you want us to command fire to come down from heaven and consume them? But he turned and rebuked them and said, you do not know what kind of spirit you are of, for the Son of Man did not come to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And they went on to another village. Let's keep going. That's the first thing. Let's keep going. The second one is this. I'll get this other one for you. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is this is Lucas chapter 13, verse 1. It says, now on the same occasion, there were some present who reported to him about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mixed with their sacrifice. And Yeshua said to them, do you suppose that these Galileans were greater sinners than all other Galileans because they suffered this fate? I tell you, no, but unless you repent, you will all likewise perish. Or do you suppose that those 18 of whom the Tower of Siloam fell and killed them were worse culprits than all the men who live in Jerusalem? I tell you no, but unless you repent, you will all likewise perish. Now, what does this have to do with what the Matthew chapter 5, verse 43 and 44 is saying? Well, these are people that were hated by the other Israelites because they allowed Pilate to mix blood with their sacrifices, right? These were people that they seen as enemies of their community, and they had hatred towards them. And Yeshua was telling them, no, you must love those who you deem as your enemies from your people. Remember, the cross reference is to Vayikra. These are your people, because he's talking to his people. He's not talking to Gentiles. When is this happening? He's talking to an audience of his own. Keep that in mind. I was trying to find one more translation for y'all to cross-reference this. I gave you the Peshitta, but I'm trying to get the OSS. I'm trying to find out where my OSS is. Let me see. Maybe I could bring this up. I want to hurry up and get this done because it's getting late. Where's it at? Okay, I might be able to find it like this. Let me check it. Man, I got thousands of documents, man. It's hard going through it. I have some of them categorized, but I gotta do a better job of categorizing them. Let me see if it's in here. Might be in here. This might be it. All right, hold on. Give me a second. Oh, I appreciate that, Bobby Lindsay. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Facts out the blue. Facts. All right. So, trying to get this for y'all. Let me see if this is it. Is this it? Is this it? Yes, this is it. All right, let me get to it. Hold on. And then I'm gonna play this music, and then we out of here for tonight, family. Give you a few samples. Now tell me if you like it. And those who are watching, if I did not include your music in this mixtape, this future one's coming out. So don't be dissuaded because of that. All right, this is Matthew 5:44. All right, so 43 and 44 says, you have heard it has been said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that ye may be children of your Father which is in heaven. He will make it his sun to rise on the good and evil, and letteth down his rain on the just and unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? The publicans do this. But be therefore perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. So we see in the Old Syriac Sinaiticus translation that it agrees with what we see there in the Koine Greek manuscripts, even though there is some textual variance. And we see the variance also in the Peshitta as well. But suffice it to say, all of them are all cross-referencing back to Vayikra. So if you don't know Vayikra or the law, or if you don't study Nevi'im, then you don't know the Midrash that Yeshua is performing. Okay? So this is exactly what he's talking about. He's speaking to the audience. Remember, you got to understand who the speaker is, who the immediate audience is, and what the ramifications of the commands that he's given to that audience, right? So he's expounding on Torah. He's not adding to anything. He's giving them an understanding that they have lost of Torah. That's what a Midrash does. That's all he was doing. He was exegeting it, right? And then after he exegeted it, then what he did was, he cited it, and then what he did was he expounded on it, because obviously the people were far removed from the originality of the Torah. So he was trying to realign them back. And this is what his mission was, along with the other missions that he had, to preach repentance to the people, to assist with the initiation of the regathering of the tribes together to be one stick, et cetera, right? So that's why I said I deal with it more as it pertains to its references to Torah and the Nevi'im, and even the Ketubim, the writings as well, like Tehillim, but more so for the cultural value and historicity of the individual Yeshua and his historical message, which was Hebraic in nature, which is the gospel of the kingdom. And that right there is in the same vein of the Nevi'im that came before him, right? And for him to initiate atonement so that people can be right before Yah, right? So again, this is what he's talking about. So a lot of people like to use this out of context. And so he's talking about love your enemy. So this saying that if you follow the Bible, then you have an enemy. You got to love your enemy and let them beat you and take advantage of you. It doesn't say that. It's not what the text says. And remember, this is only to be done for those who have heard this message. So if I'm an Israelite and you're Israelite and we both know this message, we both must adhere to it. So if you're my enemy and you know about it, then now that means that we both are subject to what this is. If you are unaware of that, of this cultural mandates that Torah gives us, then it may be a slightly different interaction because you are not following Torah. But if I see you as my people, I'm going to have a greater degree of mercy, right? And I'm going to be more willing to work with you, right? To get you to understand how you're in error. And even with your error and you doing certain things, how I'm supposed to address you. Matter of fact, the scripture tells you precisely in the book of Proverbs, right? Mashalim, it says that do not rejoice if you see the Most High dealing with your enemy, because he will turn his wrath from that enemy and he will focus it on you. So it's all in the mindset. So if you have a brother the Most High is dealing with that you got a beef with, the love that you show to him is so much to the point where you're not going to glory in his destruction. Matter of fact, once he's dealt with, it opens up an opportunity to you to reconcile with that brother, because you cannot hold a grudge or hate your neighbor. Your neighbor. And this is talking about Israel on Israel and all the strangers that adhere to Torah amongst Israel. This is important. So hopefully that begins to start you off on your journey to help answer that question. But let me go ahead and play this music as it's getting late. Yeah, John 3:16, Yachanan 3:16 is also taken out of context. I've addressed that in 3 lectures in the past. The main one is called Capital Punishment, Human Sacrifice for the Atonement of Sin in the Bible. And the other one is Are All Sins Created Equal? Go back and check both of those videos out. And I addressed the John 3:16 thing in both of those as well. All right. All right. So with that, let me end off with some music. All right. And y'all let me know what you think. All right. So let me turn this up. I don't want it too loud because people are sleeping in my house, but I want it up enough so that y'all can hear it. All right. So let me go in this bag real quick. I'm just going in this bag. These tracks real quick. I'm gonna play maybe about 5 of them. I'm only gonna play about a minute of it, so y'all can hear it. All right. So if y'all like it, let me know. You can send a donation if you want the link when it's released on January 28th. Okay. I'm still working out particulars as far as like editing the metadata, etc., and also getting clearance, right? But if y'all want to donate for the mixtape after you hear a couple of these songs, just shoot an email to kingdomharbinger@gmail.com. I'll put it in the chat again so y'all have it. And if you send a donation via PayPal, just leave a comment that is for the mixtape, right? So you can donate anywhere from $5 and up. What we're asking for, 5, 10, 20, whatever you want to donate, $5 and up, and we'll give you access to the link. And those funds will go to the community projects that we're doing. So the community projects, we'll have a future video up where I'll be out there in the field and show y'all a lot of the community work that we're doing and where a lot of the donations go to. So the donations don't just go to R&D, right? And they don't just go to availability for people who are in need, but it also goes to projects that we're doing in the community. And I'm on a board of directors for an Israelite charter school. I'm on a board of directors for a Black cityhood out here in Atlanta, and I'm on the board of directors for 2 other projects. And what we're doing for KHM is we're reaching out and creating communities. We're teaching people how to become autonomous, and we're using whatever funds we get for R&D so that way we can bring more quality content to you guys. All right. So we appreciate all the support that you guys give. But here's an email. If you are requesting a link, or you want to be in line for the link for when we drop the mixtape on January 28th, definitely shoot me an email. Donation can be via PayPal, $5 or more. The PayPal place where you can donate at, and again, in PayPal allows you to leave a comment or description or a note. Put KHM Mixtape Volume 1, and that way we know, and give us that and your email address, so that way we can lock you in so you can stream the album, right? Let me do this for you real quick. So this is the I gotta change that. It's crazy. This is the link right here, the donation link. Click on the donation link. You can donate, like I said, $5 and up. Just put KHM Mixtape Volume 1. And that way, as soon as everything is ready and released, we'll send you the link so you can actually stream the album. All right. So let me play a couple of songs for y'all. All right. Hopefully y'all are enjoying. I see y'all getting a little bit quiet in there. It's about 55 people in the chat. That some of y'all still watching. That's good. But let me play this music for y'all real quick so you can hear some of these songs, right? So I'm gonna play this one real quick.
And he said, it is a light thing that thou shouldest be my servant to raise up the tribes of Jacob and to
hit one if you can hear it. Hit one if you can hear it.
Preserve the preserved of Israel. I will also give thee for a
Mom's got beats. I'm walking the light. I've been in darkness for a minute. I see the light and now I gotta get it. I know the word and now I gotta live it. I see the prayer making my decisions. I don't want it, don't want time with it. I'm in the truth, so I don't do religion. Don't with the lies, they alter my vision. I must apologize to all the women. I was a sinner in love with the city. All my intentions was only the game. I had my feelings locked up, I admit it. I said it was love, but I never could feel it. Dealing with evil, I never committed. Never did I see myself in the Bible. Back in the day, no, I never was in it. I prayed to a higher, you shy it away. We matched the curses, we were in chains. They say we worthless, don't know a thing. We are the chosen children of slaves. Look at my people, they hung in the field. Under the trees, it wasn't for shade. Slaving to live, it wasn't for pay. Look at death in the eye with a gun in my face.
I'ma walk in the light. I'ma just walk in the light.
Losing friends, it's a part of the price. So done with the wrong in my life.
I'ma walk in the light.
I'ma just walk in the light. Losing friends, it's a part of the price. So done with the wrong in my life.
I'ma walk in the light. Okay. Shout out to the people of the book and the building. Sign of the Times TV HQ. What's goody? Red Jazz Flow. What's up? Jason Locke. What's going on? Oh yeah, Jason Locke. Man, I love Toronto. Love Toronto. So I definitely would love to come back to Toronto. So if you want to help me coordinate something, we're coming out to Toronto, email me. All right. Here we go. Email me. All right. Now this album, man, it has a variety of different types of songs, but they're all Israelite related, right? But I'm gonna play another one. That song was fire. It's called Walk in the Light, right? It's actually a battle rapper. That's an Israelite. And he's releasing his tracks first with KHM. You'll know where you heard it first. All right, let's play another track.
Into the mountaintop, into the valley low, and never gave up on the maker of my soul. But actually, he never gave up on me either, though. Allow the hard times to happen so we can grow. Not for discouragement, but for his strength to flow. When the seasons change, we won't be tossed to and fro. No compromise, heart, no mind control. He's been so good, want people to know. No compromise, heart, no mind control. He's been so good, want the people to know. And as we're elevating, take us out of the equation. We just want to praise him from sun up till daisy. Although we serve, you are a spark that lights our flame. Then to my feet, my heart is beating with your praise. And when the twice again, I see your face. You're the best changes, no way. I'm
Oh yeah. Say they get it slow, that's what they wanna know. 14 lose a big car, 16 now it's slow, 18 now we pay me again.
Oh, we got that. We got that.
20 now we go, it's the process, man. 19 now she pregnant with a baby, 2 kids and she walking down as a single lady. Brother, he was born up in the 80s, but he be living life with the mind of a baby. I don't get the process, but yeah, man, it's the process. Things that we see, my man care more about the streets, more than you care about this on see. Reach that you, that's the liar.
Okay. It's another track.
Trust with all your heart, let all night go. Take these simple steps, God will help you. Trust with all your heart, let all night go. Take these simple steps, God will help you.
First after verse, I flip through the chapters, building my strength as I reroute my master.
Transition.
Increase your faith in the Most High. Increase your faith. Increase your faith. Breathe in deep. The old man is sick. There's walking for the weak. I die daily. Valley of death, seeking light, and I found it through Christ. Increase your faith in the Most High. Increase your faith.
Black light, black joy, black peace, black money buying mad black things, black rulers, black Jews back in Judah, absorbing all the light
And let the sun feed it through.
Let's go.
Black dreams for a black dream, and make a black dream become reality. And yeah, black dream, keep it classy. It's a necessity for the black family.
Woo! Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
How in the world can we stand in the shadow of a blood-stained cross and not at least do the bare minimum that God asked us to do?
It takes a fool. Takes a fool.
We're forever learning, cover knowledge of the truth. When it comes to the word, all I ask is proof. I don't need it. I think, I feel, I trust, I believe. Let's get to the book, please. Please. Purposely spreading lies. Send out the Lord done away, but yet you the knowledge God, the justified. Will the man rob God? Yeah, it's true. So I need to be asking you.
Takes a
Now, what our time is what the people facing. Yo, I should pray for you. in front of the congregation. I hope you keep gang, you see, I already got it. And so the people can help with the money, they'll come out their pocket. Even though I ain't playing, you call my bluff. The greedy dogs, see, they could never have enough. Now, where do you go when you need to be fed? And why would you spend your money for that when you got bread?
Ooh, woo. Fire. Fire.
Yeah.
I'm going in
For the kill. Woo.
I'm doing it
For the kill. Woo. Let's go back. That's fire. That's fire.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for the kill. I'm doing it for the kill. I'm doing it for the kill. I'm doing it for the thrill.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ezekiel 36:25-27. And I shall sprinkle clean water on you, and you shall be clean. From all your filthiness and from all your idols I cleanse you. And I shall give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. And I shall take your heart of stone out of your flesh. And I shall give you a heart of flesh and put my spirit within you. And I shall cause you to walk in my laws and guard my right rulings and shall do them.
Yeah, I'm glad you would change, man. Yeah, I don't know what I used to know. I don't go where I used to go. I'm glad you would change, man. Look at me.
Shalom, shalom.
Shalom.
Shalom to your home. This one goes out to all the Hebrew lovers across the globe.
Had a long day of work, my body hurt me I've been dealing with some stress, I'm not feeling the same. Give you love.
It's the Hebrew It's the Hebrew Woo! That song is fire. That's a nice little R&B track about Hebrew love. That's fire. That's fire. All right. Let's get it in.
It's like what the deal is the real. So I must keep it real. And I'ma let my guts feel up on this first verse about how the church say the world is ill and need to be healed. But sometimes I feel as if the church worse. Pastor keep telling these women they could keep sinning as long as they keep on digging up in their church purse. And he convincing brothers that they could keep sinning as long as they keep committing to all the church work. I got tired of witnessing all the church dirt, but because I left the church, they telling people I'm church hurt. They keep telling me I need to come back, but if I come back, I probably have blood up on my church shirt. For punching one of these pastors up in their nose, bomb turn around my household with no control of their own home. See, I'm as real as it gets, and these people be hypocrites. That's why I stay up in my own zone, staying strong as I keep with my mission. You may think that I'm wrong, but you can keep your opinion. I'm seeking truth. I don't seek no religion. So if you ain't speaking truth, then you can
Keep your religion. Keep your religion.
Out of my space, get up out of my space. Hypocrites trying to teach me. Don't talk what they preach. Keep your religion.
Keep your religion.
Doing much better on my own journey.
You keep your religion. Keep your religion.
Things that you bring in it don't concern me. No, let me make this clear. So you know there's no real, no reason to go back and forth with me no more.
Woo! Last track. Last track. Last track. And again, you can play these songs. It's all you know, there's no explicit lyrics on any of these tracks, all right? No explicit lyrics. So you can play it anywhere at any time in front of anybody. You understand what I'm saying? And that was one of the requirements that I had for the artists that was submitting their songs. I wanted to make sure that it's community friendly. I mean, so let me see. Let me do this one.
Behold, we build this nation. I have cleansed my heart in vain and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long have I been playing and chastening every morning. If I said I will speak thus, behold, I should offend against the generations of thy children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me, until I went into the sanctuary of God and I understood there. Rising out the ashes, gather the priests in this organized battle drums are sounding. We march in spirits are mortified. We build this nation in temple and make it fortified. Standing strong, I'm never bowing like Mordecai. Lord, if I keep your law, no weapon form shall ever prosper. Take heed, you've been effing warned. I got my garment on, gird about the past flexing that apocrypha. You ain't heard about the murder, you just heard about the error without the question out that word. That was gathered when the priesthood that you gon' have to serve. Word. Flip the bird to every idol that stands erect. This is Judah, see this gon' end with our hands and neck. Playing for victory, reconnected through history. Reborn in my infancy, passion, pray for this infantry. This priesthood was meant to be burning spirits, no sympathy. Satan tried tempting me, but the wisdom was sent to me.
That's it. That's all for now. Just a little sample for y'all before we end off. So hopefully y'all enjoy that, family. That little snippet right there. All of those songs in full will be on the KHM The Truth Works mixtape volume 1. You know, people talk about the truth hurts, right? And a lot of times they don't want to share the truth because it hurts. But I tell people that it has to hurt before healing can take place, right? You can't heal from something if you're not hurt by it first. But we realize that the truth works. It does work. And this is what I want to say to y'all out there. A lot of y'all may have taken a stand in your life where you're following what you deem to be true. And with that comes adversity, right? With that comes rejection. With that comes people that's denying the things that you're saying. I want to continue, you know, want you to continue to stay on your journey and not allow yourself to be dissuaded because of the opposite opinion or even the behavior of others, right? Because the standard is what Yah lays out, not what people embody and what they do. They're reaching towards perfection if they're striving to be righteous. The template Yah has laid out, we got to follow that template. And if we see other people not doing the right thing, we are to be the standard for righteousness. That is what we are supposed to do or strive towards doing. So I want to ensure that these songs, when you listen to it, it not only encourages you because it's a good song, but the message lets you know that the truth works. And when people who are not in our community listen to these songs and they take time to really take in what's being said, you'll see a new kind of transformation that occurs. It's a seed that you can plant into them and just play it. They may not even know who the artist is, what's going on, but they like, that beat is hot, that, of course. And then they start to listen to it. And now you don't have to give them a strict message that's going to cut them deep when all you're doing is setting the tone and making sure the environment is conducive. So after they listen to the music, now you can step in and transition with the message. So sometimes we can't just beat people over the head and wonder why they're not accepting it, because to them it may hurt. But in order for the truth works, there is a protocol, there is diplomacy intact that we must approach certain people with if we're really going to win that soul. You understand what I'm saying? Now, I don't, my objective is not to proselytize, but when people are seekers of truth, I want to be able to contribute the truth that I know to help them along their journey. And I pray that the things that I share is doing the same thing for y'all as well. So with that being said, family, I love y'all. I appreciate it. Abri. Okay, cool. Shamsun Ben Yasharal. No problem. No problem. So definitely email me. All of y'all who want to get in contact with me. Shout out to New Black World Order in the building. Shalom. Peace. And yes, I've heard of Bizzle. I followed Bizzle's work when I was a Christian, right? And I still listen to his music today. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I hope y'all appreciate the music, the message, and information that went off today. Please keep me in prayer as I pray for y'all. Let's work together hand in hand on a collaborative effort to move the Most High's message across via our actions, right? Let's impact our communities, okay? Let's be accountable for one another as well as ourselves. And let's continue to do things that's going to drive towards excellence, right? Because the Most High's name and reputation is in alignment. The word Shem, he talks all the time about his name. Yes, his name is on the line when we do things, when we say things, how we act. When people see it, they see whose we are. Not only are we distinct by our clothes that we wear or the customs that we perform, but also about the disposition that we have and the actions that we perform. We represent Yah. And we don't want, if we can help it, to bring any shame to his name. And if it happens, then you repent, you change, you make it right with him and those you have wronged, and you move forward, right? You may not be able to make it right with everybody, right? You may not, but you put the effort out, you make the attempt. And then from there, you let Yah deal with it. Kane, Khan. All right, cool. So with that, family, I love y'all. Thank you, Corey. Always looking out for me, telling me to go to sleep, go to bed. I got you. I'm about to leave right now and get off. But anyway, family, I love y'all. Thank y'all for listening. Hopefully y'all tune in again. My aim is to go live again on Friday. Like I said, this week I'm streamlining and standardizing my work schedule, so that way I can cater to doing this a little bit earlier and more consistently, because I know y'all enjoy the Freestyle Fridays. And you know, one hand wash the Anna, and one hand wash the other, both hands wash their face together. And if there's anything I could do to assist you, let me know via email. Anything you could do to assist me, I'm open for suggestions, for assistance, etc. Let's do this together. Let's be accountable for one another. Let's be each other's keeper, and let's do a collaborative effort to move this lifestyle forward, so that way we can bring you know, a great deal of respect. And we said, put some respect on my name, we can put some respect on Yah's name. That's our goal. That's our mission. All right. So love your family. Peace. Shalom. Till we meet again.